welcome back to Connecticut Inside Out. I'll be your host for this evening. My name is Amanda Gabriel.
I'm Steve Gabriel.
And I'm Tim Gabriel.
And today I have the esteemed honor of being able to be part of the interview with April Capone, who was East Haven's first female mayor, youngest mayor, and you served for 2 terms, right?
Did, yes. From 2007 to 2009 was my first term, and then 9 to 11 was my second. Yeah.
Fun fact, we think that you were the first person that Tim Gabriel and I voted for when we moved back to Connecticut and lived in East Haven.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you.
Our landlord had put a Joe Maturo sign in our front yard, and we were very upset by this.
I was so mad at him when he did that.
I love it. This is the first time I'm hearing this story, and I love it.
Super upset by that, and we were very happy to go and cast our ballots for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you know what year was that?
2011. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay. If only you had brought like 36 friends.
We still don't have 36 friends.
Yeah.
Still to this day, don't have 36
don't have that
friends.
kind of pull.
Yeah. I can't wait until you win this Senate race too, so I can start saying, "This is April, and she has won thrice." It's going to be good. It's going to be.
Well, actually, no. I thank you very much for that. I also served on my town council in East Haven when I lived in East Haven. I'm a resident of North Haven now, but I served on my town council in East Haven in 2005. I was elected, and so fun fact about that election, we had there's no minority representation in the charter on the council in East Haven. There are 15 members of the council, which is a huge town council for the size of the town. There's about 28,000 in the town. And in 2005, I was the only Democrat elected to the East Haven.
Whoa!
Thanks.
Yeah, and so it's really funny. You know, that year I had joined. So, well, to back up, right? Where does it all start? So, in 2004. Howard Dean had just gotten out of the presidential race, and he was on Good Morning America. And I worked afternoons at the time, so I could stay home and watch Good Morning America. And I saw him on Good Morning America, and he said, "If all you are doing to participate in your democracy is going out to vote once a year, then you're getting a D as an American."
Yep.
Amanda has said that many times. She's used
I use that quote. It's such a good one.
Yeah.
I love it. Love it.
Did you hear someone else say it, or did you hear Howard Dean say it?
So I heard Howard Dean say it, and then Alyssa Mastromonaco, when she came to North Haven, also referenced that very quote too. So it's a good one. My favorite ladies have said it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I really, this is not hyperbole. It changed my life. It just struck me that, you know, I'm doing sort of activists at a national level, and I'm getting on the bus at Long Wharf to ride 6 hours in the middle of the night to go protest in DC, and that's great. Those activities are important. But maybe there's something else I can do. So I decided, you know, I just moved back to the town of East Haven, which is my hometown, and I've been away for a couple of years. And I decided to join the town committee, which is something that I recommend for anyone and everyone who's interested in local politics or any politics. All politics are local, right? So join your town committee. And so I did that, and I was there for about a year on the town committee, and I was very quiet, which is funny because you probably don't know me to be all that quiet. I'm not usually, but I was very quiet on the town committee, and I was just sort of paying attention and learning who people were and who these personalities were and how government works and how politics works, because I really didn't know. In 2005, it was an evening in the spring. I am standing in my bedroom in my house in East Haven, and I'm ironing while I'm watching the Academy Awards, right? Sunday night activity, right? I can in my mind's eye, I can see myself there. And my phone rings, and it is the chairman of the town committee, and he says to me, we're putting together a slate for the 2005 elections, and I would like you to run for town council. And I said to him what so many women say. I said, "Thank you so much. I'm flattered, but I'm no way qualified." And he said to me, "If you love your town and you care about the people in it and you want to do the right thing for them, you're qualified. And I just couldn't say no to that. I had no reasonable argument against that. So I said, okay, well, I'll give it a try. So, I was new to the town committee. I was new to politics. I was new to all of it. So I thought, well, I should go learn something. So I took 2 free seminars because free was all I could afford. And I took a seminar hosted by the Connecticut State Democrats, and I took a seminar hosted by the Connecticut Young Democrats. And they both said the same thing. Find out who the Dems are in your town, go get your list from the register of voters, and knock on every door. When the person answers, ask them for their vote, shake their hand, and don't let go until they say yes. And then when they say yes, make a note, call them election day, make sure they vote. Okay, right? Easy peasy, right? So I also got a grant of $300 from the Greater New Haven Young Dems, and that was the entirety of my campaign budget. So I did a little postcard to my district, which the voters that I made myself. I have 0 graphic design skills. I have 0 artistic talent at all, but I made this little postcard and pulled together a list and sent it out myself with the little postcard stamps. I mean, it's really, and that's how I spent the money. And I knocked on all the doors. And on election day in 2005, I had my own little headquarters. So I had a couple of friends from work, and we pulled our vote. We did, without even really knowing what I was doing, we did classic GOTV. Right? We pulled our voters out, and I won by 18 votes or something like that in the district. These were district-only seats in East Haven, and I beat a 12-year incumbent. I believe he'd been on the council for a long time, and won my seat. And I was the only Dem to win that year.
That's awesome. And
yeah,
do you can you share with us like some of the things that you're most proud of in your time on town council and as mayor?
Oh gosh, thank you. Yeah, sometimes when I look back, all I see are the things that I didn't do, the things that I wish I did more of, or just had the capacity, or I wish that I knew then what I know now. One of my favorite expressions is that experience is the information you get just after you really needed it.
Yep.
It's true, isn't it? So, and that goes for anything in life, whether it's your job or being a parent or just being, human, right? So, what am I most proud of? Well, when I was in the town council, so I was elected the only Dem to the 15-member body, and the Republicans used to caucus all the time for hours. It would caucus. It would be at the senior center in East Haven, and they would go in the kitchen and they would just drink coffee for hours. And I am telling you, they would peek out the door every once in a while to see if I'd left, and I would just never leave.
Well, that'll show them.
I would just never leave. So I stuck with it. I think one thing that I learned there was that how important it is to know the rules. Right? So I did not know Robert's Rules of Order very well. And so with that, the majority froze me out. I could never get anything on the agenda. I could never get a motion seconded. And I didn't know then that they can't do that. You can't do that to the minority. You have to let the minority speak. But I didn't know that. So knowing the rules is boring, but it's really, really useful. And sometimes it comes down to who has a better command of the rules. So one of the things that I'm really proud of in my time at town council, which translated into my time as mayor, is the Cozy Beach Park. We have a park and a splash pad down in East Haven, right across the street from the town beach. And the history of that is that my predecessor had purchased that property for $3 million. There was a dilapidated catering hall. It's called the Candlelight by the Sea, and in my lifetime, I had never seen it open. So it was really run down. So the town had purchased that property, which I think was a good move, and I supported that. They purchased it prior to my tenure on the council. But then they wanted to bond, the previous administration wanted to bond another $3 million to build a catering hall there, which would essentially have been run by the mayor's cronies, and paid for by town residents, run by the mayor's cronies. And if you wanted to use it as a town resident, if you wanted your wedding or your mitzvah or birthday party, whatever there, you had to pay to rent it like any other private run facility. And this just didn't sound right to me. So I started a petition drive to bring it to a referendum, and worked with a lot of help in the town. I mean, I didn't do it myself, but we got the signatures to bring it to referendum. So what the administration said was, well, we're not going to move forward with this. We'll scrap this plan. We'll talk about it again after the election, because they thought they were going to win. Of course, they didn't think that a 32-year-old kid with no resources and no money was gonna win the election for mayor. But we did. And when I took over as mayor, I found that the engineering and the work on that project, on that catering hall, had never stopped. They were just gonna bring it up again. They felt like, nothing would stop them after they won the election again. So, and I would just go away. But I ended up winning the election. So you win the election, and especially in an executive office, I think, maybe in any office, but especially in an executive office, there's this now what moment. And I remember thinking, well, now what do I do with this property? So what we did was I put together a focus group, a cross section of people from town. I put it out in the paper. Whoever wanted to be involved could come forward and be part of this group to determine what we should do with that property. And I asked some of my staunchest critics to be on that board. Some of them didn't accept. Some of them did, though. And what we got from that group and from talking with town residents across town was that people wanted a park. They wanted community use. They wanted community space. We didn't have much money. We had a little bit from some insurance money. There had been a fire at the building, the old building, so we had a little insurance money. We took that money. We took donated materials. We took volunteer labor, and our own town employees. Our public works did just an amazing job, and we built the splash pad there. We did that because my chief of staff at the time had his own company who had built splash pads all over the state. So what he did was he was able to teach them, our public works team, how to build a splash pad. Excuse me. And so we built the splash pad. We had the bricklayers and allied crafts workers local 1, the union came down and they built a brick building with bathroom facilities and electrical service. It's a great little park. It's really beautiful. It's still there. I was there last week, actually, and I love that park. And I think that that's one of the happiest things that I've done as mayor, because it brought so many people so much joy. And it still does, and I love that. And one of my favorite moments as mayor, it was a hot day in the summer. I was having a really hard day in the office, and I left the office and I went down to the park, and I was standing back from everything. I thought I was kind of hiding. You can't hide anywhere, but I thought I was standing back from the action, and the splash pad was teeming with little kids. And all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, this sopping wet little 4-year-old comes running over to me, little boy in his little swim trunks. He comes running over to me, and he jumps into my arms, soaking wet, jumps into my arms and says, "Thank you for the sprinklers, Mayor." And he jumps down and disappears, and I had no idea who he was then. I have no idea who he is now. I have no idea. But it was, and I thought, oh, okay, I get it now. That was exactly what I needed in that moment. And then I went back to the office and went back to work.
That's awesome. We've been to that splash pad when we lived in East Haven. We had our daughter, and she had many a fun day on that splash pad. It was it's a really special place.
Yeah, I'm happy to have been part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you win the senatorial seat, what do you want to do? What's on the agenda?
Well, I think COVID is on everybody's minds right now, right? That's what everyone is thinking about. And I work in healthcare now, so I work at April Capone Hospital. I helped launch and still manage the Center for Living Organ Donors at Yale New Haven. So I work with people who give a kidney or part of their liver. while they are still alive. And I see how this has affected the impact on healthcare, the impact on healthcare workers. I'm very concerned about how we support healthcare workers and first responders. I don't even want to say after this is over, because I don't know when or if or how this will be over. Right now, I think many of us are seeing this as a cycle that goes in phases. And how do we support our healthcare workers? And I know that that's a topic that's very personal to some of you here hosting this call. So, I know you get that. How do we care for their mental and physical health? How do we supply them with enough PPE? And when we talk about healthcare workers, we're not just talking about the nurses and the doctors, who of course are vitally important. We're also talking about the EVS staff, the environmental staff, the people who clean the rooms, the people who cook the food. Those are my colleagues. Those are the people that I work with at Yale New Haven Hospital. Those people are my friends. And how do we support them? How do we care for them? Because I think they are sometimes the forgotten members of the team who are so, so important. While it's important that we thank the physicians and the nurses, it's important that we remember those folks too. So I think supporting them through that and making sure that they have access, that everyone has access to disability insurance related to COVID, that everyone has access to appropriate testing and PPE, that there are childcare options, that there are the things that people need to be successful and be physically and emotionally healthy. I also believe that this crisis has shown how vulnerable our healthcare is in America. And, many of us know what a bad idea it is to have your healthcare tied to your job. But here we are, right? And it's really a terrible idea. I was talking with Representative Sean Scanlon the other day, who's representative out of Guilford.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to him about the bill that he and Senator Matt Lesser had this year, and I should be able to quote the number, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. But what this bill would do is it would make the state healthcare system available to eventually everyone in Connecticut. And I think that that's so powerful and so important, that everyone has affordable, reliable healthcare that is not tied to your job. That bill did make it out of committee this year, which is very exciting. And then COVID ended session. So we don't know. I mean, it still has an uphill battle. It's not going to be easy to pass. There are people who are against that. Right now, as I sit and as I see it, I'm very supportive of it. I think that it's a good start. It's maybe not where we want to be in the end, but it is a good place to start, and I like it.
I like it too. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
So April, you're running for Senate in a district that goes from East Haven through North Haven, and we are, to be clear, the leading podcast in North Haven. We continue to make that claim until anybody proves otherwise. Wallingford and a couple dozen cows in Durham. Or
some good people in Durham, West Durham, and some great people. Yes, and some great cows too. But yes, some great people in Durham.
How do you campaign when either you can't knock on people's doors or it seems very unlikely they'd answer them anyway?
Yeah, and so to go back to what I said earlier, right? I was trained. You knock on the door, you ask for the person, you shake their hand, don't go till they say that. And we don't know that we can do that.
That too.
I'm sorry, Steve?
You have literally trained me that too.
Yeah, I've trained a lot of people to do that. Yeah. So now what do we do? Well, we started phone banking last weekend. That's been very successful. We are looking at strategies old and new, right? So what are the old school networking strategies that campaigns used back in the day? And also, what are some of the new strategies that have to do with technology? I recognize that you're a podcast and you would be doing this way COVID or not, but I have done so many Zoom press conferences, and my announcement was on Zoom. Our convention was on Zoom. So I think we're doing a lot more virtually. So we're looking at how to meet voters virtually, and so it's going to be a mix, and we're all figuring it out. Every candidate is figuring it out.
You find that it's difficult to get people to care about local elections when there's so much else that's going on? Obviously, we've got like COVID, we've got like riots taking over the country, we've got a presidential election that threatens to overshadow a lot of the local stuff. Is that how do you sort of face that uphill challenge as well, in addition to not being able to go out and physically meet the public?
I think that's a great question, Tim. I'm glad that you brought it up. I've spent my life, my adult life, in my time serving in and helping other candidates help share with the public that all politics is local, that it all starts at the local level. And I feel like I am seeing people understand that now more than ever. So many of us want to change at the top, and that's important. That's really important. Having said that, I think the local level, when it comes to a mayor, when it comes to your council representatives, your board of ed, your and even your state representatives and senators, they are very, very local, even though they represent the state. I think that people understand how closely that impacts and touches their lives. I used to say, when I was mayor, that you don't, it was my hometown, and where I was born and raised and where my family's all from. You don't leave it. You wake up in the morning and you're there. You pump gas with it. You grocery shop with it. You go to the bank with it. You're always there. And I think the same can be said for your state representatives and state senators, for your state legislatures. We live in our districts. We're not, we're not going off to the capital in some far off place, right? We're just going up to Hartford in a small state. Maybe different in larger states, but here we're living in our districts, and we're staying in our districts, and we are closely connected to the people that we serve. So we have such an impact on the people that we serve. And I think sharing that message, and I want to say, Tim, I think people are getting that more now than ever. And I also think that sometimes when people feel powerless to really do something at the national level, that I can vote at the national level, but what else can I really do? That they understand, they begin to understand, and they respond to that by getting involved locally. I've been teaching at Gateway Community College off and on as an adjunct for 9 years now, and I teach American government, and I teach my students that state legislatures are the laboratories of democracy. This is where it all happens. And if it happens in enough states, the national government, the federal government follows through. That's how we make them care.
I mean, I agree. And I think that we are seeing more and more people care at the local level. In this particular district, though, it is very challenging. I mean, East Haven has been successful in flipping the mayoral seat blue.
Mm-hmm.
Wallingford and North Haven have been persistently challenged. So how are you going to face the challenge of being in a purplish but mostly red district as a Democrat?
Yeah, I think it's inspiring Democrats and pulling them out to vote, right? And that's going to be more figurative than literal this year, because we're going to have the absentees. That's going to take a re-education also, and that's going to take a little difference in how we think about which voters we contact. There's going to be a whole voter education piece on how to vote by AV. We're working on that also. But I think that what towns like these need are solid organization of Democrats. And I think I believe that that's something we can do. I think that there is more opportunity here this year in 2020 this year is the year to flip the seat for a number of different reasons. And I think it is a challenge. This is not going to be an easy election. It's not going to be an easy race. And from someone who has lost by 34 votes, I know that every vote counts, right? And so
Only
it's
won
about
by 9, so if that helps you feel good.
you get it. Yeah.
Every vote does count. So I want to ask you, like, I've been talking to a lot of Democrats in town who have voted very locally for Republicans because they see Democrats running to the right of the Republicans, saying we want to cut taxes, we want to reduce the Board of Education budget by $300,000, which, I mean, full disclosure, like, I'm on the board of ed. I don't love that, but that's fine. Like, you do you, right? So I think that we are actually losing people because progressive values are getting lost in North Haven, at least. What is your take on that?
I'm not sure what East Haven is like, but North Haven and Wallingford, I know that there's a sizable amount of independents that make up, and they, for whatever reason, have been voting Republican these years. But like, I think the idea is when you look at how they vote nationally, they'll vote for Obama, they'll vote for DeLauro and stuff like that. So it's not like they're not gettable. But yeah, not to interrupt your question, but
No,
yeah,
I mean, I'm done.
Yeah, no, I think that you make two very good points. So, East Haven has gone back and forth from Democrat to Republican, but in '07, when I ran, it had been 10 years in Republican hands. And the same, roughly the way it shakes out is half, like a quarter of the voters are Republicans, a quarter are Democrats, and then half are independents, roughly. So that's the way it shakes out in East Haven too, and has for a while. So it's the same as North Haven and Wallingford. But they do come out and they do vote Dem when you show a difference. And I think that's what's important. I think it's showing difference. And that's what it comes back to, Amanda, showing progressive values. And I think that's what Democrats want to see. I think that's how I think in '07, I didn't even know the word progressive values. I think people were using that language then, but I had them. I had those values. And that's what we showed. I think people want simple messages. And I think this race to the bottom is very scary. I was talking to a friend of mine this morning who has got grown children and grandchildren, and I said to her very simply. Now, she's known me for years, so I can't say that anybody in my life is not political, because if you're in my life, you're hearing about it all the time. So, but she's not a cable news watching person. She's not that kind. But I was saying to her, listen, we have been giving tax breaks to the wealthy virtually my entire life, right? Virtually my entire life. That has not trickled down. That has not benefited working people. If you want to stimulate the economy, and I looked at her and I said this, I said, you want to give a tax break to your son and daughter-in-law who are living on one income with 2 small kids. And she got that. Yeah, I get that. I get why you do that. I said, yeah, because your daughter-in-law is going to spend that money in a heartbeat, because she's got 2 little kids and a million things she needs to spend it on. People understand that. So I think people understand progressive values when you explain it to them, when you make it real to them. And I think that there hasn't been a movement to address that in the 34th district. The 34th Senate district has the highest number of one of the districts in the state with the highest number of union membership.
Absolutely.
What is that? Show them the difference.
Yeah.
Show them the difference.
So what's one policy difference that you would want, like one progressive policy difference that you'd want to enact in aside from healthcare, sooner rather than later?
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh. I mean, I think that, man, I mean, closing the achievement gap, I think is very important to all of us. I think that addressing income inequality, I think addressing the inequality in taxation. You asked me for one, I'm giving you all of them. But
Go ahead. We're
think,
casual here.
yeah,
It's fine.
yeah. I mean, I think, I think those are the things that matter to people's lives, right? And I've said this, right? And I said this in my announcement, and I believe this, that a state legislator has 3 jobs. The first is to read and understand the bills that come before you and act in the best interest of your constituency. The second is to be an advocate for your district, to see that the resources that we send up to Hartford come back to the district to benefit the district. And I know how important state funding is to a municipal budget. I've lived it, right? And how it impacts the property taxes that everyone pays. And then lastly is to, and potentially most importantly, is to help individuals navigate, cut through the red tape of working with state agencies whenever they have business before a state agency. And that's really important. So those are the 3 jobs that I think are vitally important and what we need in a representative in Hartford.
So April, finishing up, what can people who want to help you out, what can they do to support you, to help?
Thank you. Well, we are qualifying for the Citizens Election Program, so we're participating in that. I really believe in taking money out of politics, and the Citizens Election Program in Connecticut has done that for state races. Love to see that translate to the local races. That's another conversation. And so normally I would be saying, well, please donate to the campaign, except we qualified in 2 weeks, which blows my mind. I don't even know how it happened. So what I need, really what people can do to help, volunteer, and they can go to april4ct.com. That's April, FORCT.com. There's an info page. Just send us an email with your contact information, and we will get you interested in phone banks. If you're not, not everybody is comfortable on the phone. Not everybody's comfortable cold calling on the phone. It's easier than you think, but not everybody's comfortable doing that. We'll find something for you to do. We will find a way for you to help. So definitely, volunteers is what we need right now.
That's great.
And April, you forgot one vital thing as well. You vote for you on August 11th, I believe, in the primary. There's still a primary going on, as far as I know. And we'll try to reach out to Eileen McKean at some point and see if she wants to come on as well. But there's the primary that has to happen first before you even get on that ticket. So
so
make sure they do that.
Yeah, there's a primary August 11th, and election day is November 3rd, and it looks like we will all have the option to vote by absentee ballot, which I will be doing myself personally. Just to for the health and safety of everyone around me. Even though I am fortunately healthy, I will be voting by ABL. So yeah, vote by absentee. Thank you.
There we go. And we have just 2 minutes left. So I just want to give you an opportunity. Anything else you want to say to the voters of the district? Anything else that we can offer to them that they might find interesting? It doesn't have to be a pitch or anything. It could be a fun fact, whatever, what you're drinking, what you're watching, anything.
Plain seltzer. That's what I drink. That's what I drink. And fun fact, I don't share this a lot, but I don't hide it. I'm dyslexic. And that was I didn't find out until I was a junior in college. I just thought I was slow and dumb my whole academic career. It's just a shame, and I say that for a reason, right? Because I'm not, but it took finding out what that diagnosis was to understand. So I'm dyslexic. I do a lot of audiobooks.
We had a wonderful conversation earlier this week on the podcast with another candidate who we were talking about the importance of diagnosing early and how that can change somebody so that they don't feel like, they're a brilliant person who feels less than for any specific reason. So we're with you and we're working on it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And by the way, it is no fault of any teacher, not my mother. You know, when I bring it up, my mother will say, I didn't know. Well, of course she didn't know. No one really knew, right?
Right.
No one, there weren't the resources. So it's no one's fault. It was just the time. And yeah, had it been born maybe 10 years later, it would have been different. Yeah, so I'm glad to know now and to do what I can to work around that. But there are many successful people who are dyslexic too. I just need to have the strategies to work with it.
Well, April, thank you so much for coming on and thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah,
And everybody remember to go to april4ct.com. Did I get that right?
you did. Thank you.
april4ct.com. Thanks,
Mhm.
everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so
All
much.
right,
Good to
April, thanks
see
for
you
coming on.
all. Virtual hug.
Thanks. Virtual hug.